I'm Charlotte McLeod with investingnews.com, and here today with me is Kerry Stevenson, investor, host of Making Money Matter, and founder of the Australian Gold Conference. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Charlotte, it's great to see you. It's been a busy couple of days so far.
Yes, we're here at the Rural Symposium, and we've made it to the end of day 2.
Phew.
Yes, a lot going on. I've been here in this room all day, and so I wanted to check in with you. You've been up on the stage, you've been around. What are some of your key takeaways so far?
Well, I just come from listening to Grant Williams, who is always one of my favourites at the conference, and as Rick often says, he always gets voted the favourite presentation. And his presentation today was the difference between an investor and a speculator. And it's really interesting because if you look at some of the history of stocks and the Reddits and GameStop, if you remember, that was very much speculation. And one of the things that I'm finding is coming out is patience. Rick often speaks about it, that sometimes as an investor we're not patient enough, especially in the resources sector, because as we all know, it sometimes takes a little bit of while to get the news and the project properly sorted for investors. And you've got to have patience. And I often say to people, if you believe in the project, if you believe in the management, then if the stock price drops, maybe that's the time to back up the truck. Not financial advice, by the way. But you know what I mean? It's like if you truly believe in something, it could take a while for it to actually show you the money, so to speak.
Very true. And the other thing I was going to ask you, having been out and about here, is sentiment. Are these people who are ready to be patient?
I think there's been a bit of both, to be honest. I think there's some that want the quick wins and are looking for where's the quick win. But then there's a lot of pragmatism and a lot of people that have been around for a while and have seen the cyclic nature of the beast and know that sometimes it can take a while. But what I'm also seeing from my point of view, we all know small caps have been beaten up badly, and it doesn't matter whether you're in North America, Australia, or wherever you are, they have been beaten badly. So from my point of view, that's a time to start to get really excited.
Okay, and very good lead-in for my next question. So we had a great conversation back in November or so, and one of the topics we covered is what are you doing with your money right now? So let's check in on that, and I'll keep it broad for now, and then we can get into the specifics.
Interesting it was November, because come December, and I don't know whether it was a result of chatting to you, Charlotte, but come December, I actually cashed in the whole portfolio, aside from one coal stock. I know that's not very, everyone's like, coal, don't do coal. We're going to need coal for a long time. And 2 gold stocks. Everything else, even the big BHPs of this world, I'm out. And I've been sitting in cash up until about 2.5 weeks ago, when I've come back in with quite big licks on 4 stocks, and I've still got some cash where I'm looking at some of the small caps at the moment.
Okay, so tell me more about that. What made you decide, okay, I'm getting out, I'm going to take a break, and I'm going to look for new things?
Was it instinct? Was it foolishness? Was it I'm just sick and tired of what's going on? I don't know. I just had a feeling that the market was going to be a little bit soft, and it was best for me to sit out, take away the emotion, do a little bit of research without having to watch the stocks or anything like that. And I just sat there for a while, and I'm glad I did, because especially in the small cap land, there was one particular stock, and I won't mention the name, but a mistake that people often made is the hardest thing to do is to sell. And this was a stock that I bought in at 3 cents. I bought again at 7. I took the options at 75. It went running all the way up to $2, almost 50. And I got out at 15 cents. I had to take the loss. And it's now sitting at 4. So if I'd waited, it could have been even worse. But one of the things I've learned is sometimes taking a profit along the way isn't such a bad thing.
Yeah, well, and sometimes I think you have to go through that process to get the lessons. That makes a lot of sense, actually. So looking back to that conversation we had, we talked about gold quite a bit, and we talked about unloved gold equities. So want to get your take on the gold stocks right now. They still feel pretty unloved. How are you feeling about that?
Well, I said to you I had 2 gold stocks, and
those made the cut.
Yeah, they made the cut, and one of them I'm very happy about. It's an interesting story. There was a company called Gascoigne Resources, which over a year ago was called Gascoigne Resources. It went into care and maintenance. It had a deposit called Never Never over in Western Australia. New management came in, a guy by the name of Simon Lawson, who'd been with Northern Star, and he just checked in and he said, you know what, I think we're looking in the wrong place and we're looking the wrong way. Now, when I bought into that stock, which was about May of last year, it was about 12 cents. It closed today at 94 cents. They've increased the resource. The grades they're finding are fabulous. So it's a complete turnaround. So it's very interesting with the gold stocks. That's a gold stock that's done very well. But I do agree that right now some of the gold stocks are still unloved. There's some out there that potentially could be going to do very well, but who knows? I do think the gold price needs to strengthen a little bit. Sentiment for gold is still what I would call lackluster.
Right. And it's very interesting because since we last spoke, gold has really moved. It's at historically high prices. So what do you make of that kind of disconnect between the price and the sentiment?
Yeah, gold this year alone, I think, is up at about 24%, which is a nice, healthy increase. But I think most people are still looking at the EMs, as I call them, the lithiums, the uraniums, all the EMs are still taking, and that sort of move to the green tech space, if you like, and the revolutionization, the EVs, etc. People are looking at that sort of area. Gold is seen to be still, I think, to some, a little bit boring. But I see boring as great.
Right. And I know we've talked about how important you feel gold is for wealth preservation. Mm-hmm. And I wonder, I don't think we talked about this last time. Where do you place silver? Silver is also on the move this year. Do you put it in that category?
Well, silver's moved more than gold this year, and it's having a nice, healthy uptick. And if you listen to Keith Neumeyer from First Majestic, he's known as that triple-digit guy because he thinks that silver is going to become the one to watch. And I speak to a lot of people, Charlotte, and they say the same thing. And the reason they say it goes back to fundamentals, supply and demand. We look at gold. Gold is money, in my opinion. Silver is also money, but also silver has industrial uses. And if we are going to move to all the green revolution, if you like, solar panels need silver. There are so many different uses for silver. So I can actually see that silver will start to move. And when you listen to Keith and what he's talking about with the uses of silver and the demand for silver, I can see where he's coming from. So silver sitting today at about $30 US. Could we see it back to the highs at 50 this year? Potentially. But I have no silver crystal ball. If I did, I'd be in a much better position.
Yes. We would all love to have a crystal ball. Okay, so you kept your one coal stock, 2 gold stocks. You're looking to deploy capital now. We've talked a little bit about gold. Where else are you looking? What sectors are interesting to you right now?
Well, one of the areas that I did deploy some funds was a biotech company by the name of Argenica Therapeutics. They've got a drug, ARG-007, which is to do with helping stroke victims and traumatic brain injury. But they're coming in, they've done phase 1, going into phase 2. I think that something like that is, with a biotech, you've got to be careful. It takes a long time. It's kind of like mining. It can take years and years and years. But the steps that Argenica have taken, and Dr. Liz Dallimore is a very, very clever lady and very methodical, I think it's got a pretty big chance of getting one of the big farmers to come in and say, we want this one. So, yeah, I'm looking at biotech. Biotech's been smashed as much, if not more, than resources.
Very interesting. We were going definitely outside of my wheelhouse there. Do you have any tips for people who want to look at biotech stocks, just how to evaluate them?
Ooh, it's the same as how I evaluate other areas. With biotech, for me, they've got to be past phase 1, which is in the early stages of the drug trials. Management. If they're methodical, if they know what they're doing, and you can see a path forward, that's when I start to look at it and it gets interesting.
Okay, so I always also like to ask you about Australian trends. So our audience is quite North American, and they may not know what's going on over there, and probably I don't really know what else is going on there either. So Australia trends in the resource sector, what are you seeing?
Well, Australia overall is probably one of the most over-governed places on the planet, in my opinion. And right now, like most of the world, we've got elections coming up, state, federal's coming up. Now, from a federal point of view, Australia has some of the largest uranium deposits in the world. Outside of Canada's got the Athabasca Basin. We've got some fantastic deposits. One of them is Boss Energy's Honeymoon deposit in South Australia. The argument is that in Australia, we cannot mine uranium and use it in Australia. We're not using nuclear energy. So Peter Dutton, who's the opposition leader, is now advocating for nuclear energy as a solution because it's zero carbon, can be low cost, and will help our electricity prices. Because in Australia, our electricity prices are out of control, mainly because we keep moving towards the solar and the wind, which is pretty expensive. So I'm looking at uranium and some of our uranium stocks and thinking, hopefully we see sense as a country and go, you know what, guys, it's actually a really good source of energy and will help us a lot. So in Australia, I like uranium as a source. I hope it gets up. But we are still stymied with red tape. You have no idea how long it takes for permitting, for getting projects underway. There are so many hoops that the industry still has to go through. And I think, Charlotte, most Australians are still not aware of just how important the mining industry is to the wealth of our nation and why we should be supporting it.
That is so interesting to hear those comments, because over here, when I hear about Australia, one of the things that we hear about the companies is, wow, they're so agile. They can change direction when they need to. They'll go on a different path that they need to. They'll take a smaller mine and bring it into production instead of over here. Maybe they're aiming for something bigger. So really interesting to get your perspective, because for over here, I think we hear, oh, it's great over there.
Yeah, I think everyone thinks that it's great. And look, don't get me wrong, we do have a good, strong resources sector, but it's not helped by the government. And I do believe that we can do so much better. And we all know the world is going to need a lot more resources. And I don't care whether we're talking copper, gold, silver, uranium, in this transition and in the energy needs that we're going to need going forward, we're going to need a lot more resources. We need to make it easier.
Okay, that's definitely true. So one Australian trend that I've heard a little bit about is niobium, and I realized I should have Googled it to make sure I'm saying it properly. But
there you are.
Okay, is that a trend you've noticed? Is that hype, or is there something real there?
Well, niobium's a rare earth. Now, I don't know enough about it, but yes, some of the stocks in Australia that have got niobium in their basket of rare earths are absolutely going gangbusters, and some people have got it early. Not me, sorry, not me. Have done extremely well. But like you, I don't know enough. All I know is rare earths, niobium, needed for magnets, wind farms, electric vehicles. So I believe that there's going to be a big demand. It's all about supply demand. So haven't done enough research into it, but I think there's some interesting companies out there that once the price in the rare earths market starts to shift, because it has pulled back, companies like, for example, Dreadnought Resources that have got a rare earths project with niobium over in Western Australia could look very interesting.
Yeah, I think rare earths very tricky. I had Rick Rule earlier who was also saying how tricky they are to get a hand on. So,
oh gosh, the legendary Rick Rule says it's tricky. Yeah. I'm in good company.
Yeah, so yes, I think so. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about your work. So you have your YouTube channel, and you do interviews with CEOs and other experts. But one thing I've noticed that you're doing is you do videos that would be useful for people who might be earlier in their financial journey, who might need help with budgeting or different things like that. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask you about that and find out why you think that's important.
I think it's important because the channel's called Making Money Matter for a reason. I want to do more of this because I think that everyday people have no idea where I call it currency, because gold is money, everything else is currency. And they've got no idea where their leaky buckets go. So they'll complain to me that, they're living paycheck to paycheck, or that they don't know where their money's going. And I say, well, let's have a look at it. Where are your leaky buckets? Oh, okay, so you bought the flat screen TV. So I'm trying to get people to be more aware of where their money is going. I'm also helping them with how to get started in the share market because, again, people think it's all too hard, so they don't invest. And if you're not investing your money, you're going backwards because inflation is here to stay. And no matter which way you look at it, if you're not trying to get ahead of the inflationary curve, you're going backwards. So that's a bit of a passion of mine at the moment to help people to understand that and give them simple tips and tools that they can use to make it not so scary to invest.
Yeah, I think it's a good bridging step because I do feel a lot of the channels out there assume a level of knowledge that maybe everybody doesn't have. So I like that a lot. And also for you, you have your event coming up very soon. So we should talk about that. What should we all know about it?
Okay, yeah. Here I am in Boca Raton, Florida, which I love, very hot outside. But yes, next month we have the Australian Gold Conference, which is on at Crown Towers in Sydney, which is a beautiful venue. And that's about educating people about why they should have gold as part of their wealth preservation strategy. Because as I said before, gold is money. Everything else is credit, which is okay. But I think for me, and again, I don't like to assume that people understand it. So on the Monday evening, which is the 26th of August, I'm putting on a free event. Free. Thanks to our sponsors, EMR Capital, who I know you know, and Barton Gold and Bullion Now, which is a bullion dealer based in Melbourne. The wonderful Michael Pepper founded this company, and they're great. They're great guys to deal with. He's very big on the education space. So we're going, come along, and we're going to show you just how easy it is to get exposure to gold and silver. So we'll talk about equities, we'll talk about physical bullion, we'll talk about ETFs, we'll talk about all sorts of things, and royalty companies, so that people have that sort of beginner's guide to looking at precious metals. And then we go on to the Tuesday and the Wednesday, which is also for everybody, but that's a paid event where we will talk about holding gold in your self-managed super fund. We'll have a number of mining companies there, from the explorers, developers, producers. So trying to bring everything under one roof and celebrate the Australian gold industry.
Very good. Okay, we'll leave details for that in our video description so people can check it out. And any final thoughts that you would leave investors with?
Well, as Rick Rule often says, be patient, do your due diligence, do your research, and don't listen to social media, because don't get on the hypey bandwagon because you'll get hurt.
I think those are great words to end on. Thank you so much for being here to go through all these topics. It's great to have you.
Great to see you again too, Charlotte.
Of course, and once again, I'm Charlotte McLeod with investingnews.com, and this is Kerry Stevenson. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We'd also love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a comment below.